on your nomination. After the last 4 years, it's clear that we need more transparency in our trade policy making, and USTR is one of the few cabinet agencies that does not have an inspector general. As we've seen across the executive branch, inspectors general help agencies do their jobs better by promoting greater transparency, accountability, effectiveness, all which leads to better results. Last year, I led all the Finance Committee Democrats in introducing legislation to establish an Inspector General for USTR so we can use this proven effective tool to help us make better trade policy in the years ahead. Are you supportive of having an Inspector General at USTR?
Senator Menendez, thank you for this question. I know the leadership role you've had on this particular issue. I think what I would say is understanding that inspectors general answer to the mandate of overseeing and ensuring that there's no waste, fraud, or abuse going on in the executive branch. I am very supportive of accountability and transparency, in particular with respect to Congress. I know that there is no Inspector General apparatus set up for the Executive Office of the President agencies. I'm not aware of the specific legalities around that, but with respect to your desire for more transparency and accountability, I'm very supportive of that.
I appreciate that. I recognize that USTR's placement in the Executive Office of the President poses some unique challenges, but they're not novel or insurmountable. So I look forward to working with you to address those issues. Let me turn to China as well. You've heard this. We all believe collectively on a bipartisan basis, one of our biggest challenges. Last Congress, I led in the introduction of the American Leads Act. It is a cross-jurisdictional piece of legislation to not only confront China, but to compete with China at the end of the day. Do you believe that domestic investments are part of our response to the challenge of competing with China?
Absolutely, Senator.
And particularly at USTR, there is a special investigations unit that would be responsible for trade agreement violations and Section 301 investigations. One of the things that you can do is to get U.S. companies who refuse to share information with the U.S. government about China's predatory practices out of fear that the Chinese authority will discriminate against the firm. But knowing about those predatory practices are important to us as we deal with China. Is that something that you believe that you would pursue that is of value to us?
So, Senator, just to be clear, is your question whether or not I would be interested in pursuing deploying this particular group at USTR in working with stakeholders who may be shy about sharing the problems they're running into in China?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. One of the most important things, including in a competition with China, is that innovation and R&D has to be a central part of our response. As you may know, New Jersey is a center of innovation from telecom to medical products to pharmaceuticals. So it's critical for manufacturers in my state that USTR advance and defend strong intellectual property rules in our trade agreements and at global fora like the World Trade Organization. If confirmed, would you work to protect American innovators and the millions of American workers in IP-intensive industries?
Senator Menendez, I know New Jersey's place in America's innovation economy, and I know that one of the things that distinguishes our economy is the innovation that goes on here. I think that is in large part due to the balance that is achieved by the Congress in terms of our intellectual property protection and rights laws. Yes, I believe it is important for our trade policies to reflect that balance as well between the rights of innovators and the rights of those seeking access to the fruits of their innovations.
Finally, let me turn to Europe. USTR, following on Senator Cantwell's, imposed 25% tariffs on EU food products such as cheese, wine, and olive oil after winning a case against the EU. But those tariffs have been devastating to food importers and restaurants in New Jersey, struggling particularly due to the pandemic. They can ill afford to have increased costs at a time like this. And a year and a half into these retaliatory tariffs, I don't think anyone can say that the strategy of targeting food and beverage products on an aircraft dispute is working to bring a resolution to this dispute. Would you make it a priority to review the Airbus tariffs and listen to our food importers, our restaurants, so that the businesses that have nothing to do with the underlying dispute can get some relief?
Senator Menendez, I know the disruption and the pain that these particular tariffs are imposing on the affected stakeholders. I also want to acknowledge that this is part and parcel of the longstanding aircraft dispute between the U.S. and EU, and in some ways, this is the way the WTO system is supposed to work. You inflict pain on each other's stakeholders to try to motivate each other to come to a resolution. So I think my answer to you will essentially be a version of my answer to Senator Cantwell, which is, I think at the core of this, whether the tariff piece or the overall dispute is the need for the U.S. and EU to come together to figure out an answer.
I'd like to find ways to create challenges for them, but not for us in doing so. Cheese doesn't fly.
I thank my colleague. We're going to just keep going, and Senator